things you need to know about Sugar, too, is that she's very short. 3 feet. 3 feet tall.
I am exactly 4'11".
And now for the feature presentation, part 4 of the documentary series regarding the history of Entropia universe. This part has been titled The Beginning.
The following film has been brought to you in part by the Secret Universal Services, leveraging the power of information and opportunity to keep our sweat community safe since 2022.
Disclaimer, this is not clickbait, nor has it ever been viral.
Centuries had passed by as man slowly moved further into space. During this time, an unknown number of new generation Odysseus probes had started their endless voyage across the galaxy, sharing the same ancient quest as the original 7 probes that had been launched from Earth such a long time ago. It was one of these new generation probes that discovered a truly life-giving planet. With minor environmental adjustments, this new world would be a virtual copy of the Earth itself, but with its own evolution of generally early primitive life forms. Once the probe had proven the environment to be acceptable for a human settlement, it established a base and sent a message back through the hyperlink network before it began the terraformation of the planet. When the atmosphere and environment had been adjusted to fully support human life, the robots continued to build cities that were to stand ready in time for the first human arrivals. However, things had changed during the course of time since the first original probes were launched from Earth. Before the signal managed to reach its intended destination on Earth, it was intercepted and decoded by a corporation that now owned and maintained several of the beacons inside a large sector of the hyperlink network where the signal was first received and identified by humans. The corporation Omegatech quickly claimed the contract to colonize the world, but withheld the crucial information from the public that a true living planet had been discovered. The issue was only discussed in secrecy before the Supreme Imperial Chancellor within the closed chambers of the Imperial Senate. The Federal Empire knew the great importance of this historical discovery and decided to give the contract to Omegatech along with an ultimatum. Unless the corporation had begun a colonization of the planet within a decade, the colonial contract would be passed on to the next corporation in line that filed a claim on the new world after it had been made official. Indeed, there were speculations that the Federal Empire itself had already drawn up its own plans, and that the ultimatum was only their first step in taking control of the new world. As the data communications with the robot-based matrix on the new world continued, more data was decoded that revealed new amazing information. According to certain files, the mysterious planet had kept the Odysseus probe stationed for several standard cycles in orbit before it finally made the decision to leave, despite available resources to construct a new jump rail to continue its own voyage within less than 1 cycle. Any information that would explain this event had, for unknown reasons, never been transferred from the Odysseus probe to the robot-based matrix before the probe left the star system. This strange delay in the probe's voyage gave the planet its name, according to a very ancient human tale from Earth, where a sea nymph waylaid a homeward-bound hero named Odysseus for 7 years on her island. The name of this nymph was Calypso, and it was considered most fitting for a future market campaign. Despite efforts to keep the discovery a secret, many rumors of the amazing new world soon began to spread across the colonies. The new planet and its star system were positioned far past the rim of the colonial frontier, which gave the isolated planet an almost mystical reputation amongst the people on the imperial colonies as well as on Earth. This growing public interest was building up a pressure for both the Omegatech Corporation and the Federal Empire. Omegatech used this interest to execute a hostile takeover and to gain legal motion and financial aid from the Federal Empire for a daring project that would expand the empire outside the colonial borders and past the known frontiers. by bringing the first human settlers to Calypso. With federal aid and a growing public interest throughout the colonies, Omegatech were able to launch an enormous enterprise called the Exodus Project. Its goal was to bring human settlers to Calypso within less than a decade. The best way would be to launch a research ship towards Calypso using a jump rail. The ship would carry necessary equipment and crew for the construction of a space gate, and the basic material needed to link it to its counterpart that would be built inside the secure space of the colonial frontier. However, there were not enough technological resources available within the corporation itself to embark on such a project. To succeed with this endeavor, Omegatech would need to obtain technological aid and resources from other interstellar corporations, but the space market was more interested in seeing the downfall of Omegatech than to help it succeed and prosper. It was a clear attempt by market rivals to weaken Omegatech in order to move in later and take over the financially vulnerable corporation. High prices on imported resources, shipment delays, equipment flaws, espionage and sabotage would threaten the project, despite legal aid from the Federal Empire.
It's him!
Wow, one person. Just the one.
Gio!
Yeah, nice. Spin.
Nice. Ooh, cool. I recorded that. I'm glad I sat down. I recorded that at 1440p.
The Federal Empire wasn't able to control the corporations directly in favor of a single corporation without a risk of causing a political market crisis. Omegatech had foreseen this line of events and decided to use a more old-fashioned approach to overcome this problem. By contemplating whatever available technology and resources it had access to, the corporation decided to build a giant colonial space vessel called the Exodus. The commercial campaign was given the same name as the ship, which increased the public interest in the project even more. The Exodus would be able to take over 1,000 settlers to Calypso using the largest jump rail ever built. With financial support from the Federal Empire, the project was set into motion. Despite massive criticism from rival corporations about the low technological level of the whole enterprise, and it was a risky business, it would take every last bit of financial resources to succeed, which would leave the Omegatech Corporation financially crippled and very vulnerable. The colonies on other planets were not considered living planets like Earth. Even though some planets possessed enough basic elements to be terraformed and given a new designed ecosystem, it still had to be artificially maintained, just like the home planet of Earth itself. Despite these advanced technologies, permanent habitants had to be genetically designed to survive on these worlds. Calypso had its own natural ecosystem, even though it had been slightly altered by the robots to make it perfectly suitable for unaltered human beings. When the Federal Empire stated that the discovery of the new world was fact, it quickly became leading news all across the colonial empire. The thought of an untouched world spread a new sense of hope and joy amongst the people throughout the colonies. The Exodus campaign rose ill rumors amongst the colonies that the new world would only be available to the unaltered human elite on Earth and the people within the Omegatech Corporation, which caused industrial strikes and colonial uproars. The relatively small colonial communities of altered humans posed more of an annoyance than a threat to the corporations and the Federal Empire. The colonial uprisings would fade away with the assurance that the Federal Empire would give all people in the colonial empire the chance to apply for the journey to Calypso on board the Exodus. However, genetically altered humans and inhabitants on other colonies wouldn't be anatomically fit to take on the hard ventures as settlers at this early stage of colonization. Instead, they were given the official promise that they would gain access to the new world as any other visitors would once the colony had been secured. This promise was not favored well amongst certain political fractions, and would result in a growing envy and ill will within the altered human colonies. The Exodus was built in space inside a shielded dome next to a large resourceful asteroid and industrial facilities owned by the Omega Tech Corporation. This dome was not only a shipyard, but would also serve as the protective coating around the ship when it was to be launched by the large jump rail. The jump rail was being constructed at the same time near another resourceful asteroid. These construction areas were located not far away from a central space station that controlled the only space gate in the sector. When the great ship was complete, it was moved to the jump gate, and there it was prepared for launch. The fortunate people who had been authorized to become the first settlers on Calypso were now allowed to travel to the space station and board the Exodus. Every step in the project was followed in detail by the interstellar media and transmitted through the interstellar hyperlink network, instantly reaching people all over the colonial frontier inside the Federal Empire. Media titled it the Great Exodus, which boosted the public campaign even more. When the Exodus ship was finally launched on her journey towards Calypso, it was considered as another milestone in human history and the beginning of a new era. It had taken 3 years to complete the Exodus project, but it would take another 2 years before the people in the Federal Empire finally heard from the Exodus again.
Lizard Lake, Murmur,